thousands of veterans miss out on benefits they're actually eligible for, and many don't even realize it. If a VA medical procedure, treatment, or even a slip and fall at a VA facility caused you additional harm, you might be leaving significant monthly compensation on the table.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Veterans Briefing.
Yeah, and today we're really focusing on, a massive blind spot in the benefits system.
We're talking about Section 151 claims, and, the data on this is honestly just staggering.
It really is.
I mean, fewer than 5% of eligible veterans ever actually file this type of claim because, honestly, nobody ever told them they exist.
Right, which means they're leaving life-changing financial support behind. And it's not a lack of qualification, it's just this huge information void.
Exactly. You've got veterans dealing with severe chronic issues, paying out of pocket for home modifications, walking with a cane, and they just chalk it up to terrible luck. They have no idea the mechanism exists to get compensated.
So our mission in this deep dive today is to really explain what an 1151 claim is, who qualifies, and how to avoid the common pitfalls that cause these claims to get denied.
And the foundation of all this sits in Title 38 of the Code of Federal Regulations, specifically Section 1151.
Okay, so what does that actually say?
Well, the law operates on a very specific premise. If you suffer an additional disability or an existing condition is made permanently worse as a direct result of VA hospital care, medical treatment, or even a VA exam, you are entitled to compensation.
Wow. Okay.
And the critical phrasing in the statute is that you are compensated as if the injury were service-connected.
Wait, I want to pause on that as-if concept for a second, because that sounds like you get the exact same disability rating scale.
You do. It's the exact same tax-free monthly payments.
Even the same access to things like adaptive housing grants. Even though, you didn't sustain this injury in combat or on active duty.
Yep. All of it. You could have sustained it in a clinic in Ohio 10 years after you discharged. The VA administrative system basically treats the hospital-induced harm with the same weight as a combat injury.
That's incredible. But, the moment you mention hospital-induced harm, most veterans probably hit a massive psychological barrier.
Yeah,
right?
Oh, absolutely. That is the biggest misconception we see.
Yeah, because if I tell a veteran that a VA doctor messed up their surgery and they should seek compensation, their mind immediately jumps to a medical malpractice lawsuit.
Right. They picture hiring a high-priced litigator, spending 5 years in depositions, fighting government lawyers in federal court.
And honestly, a lot of veterans feel a deep loyalty to the VA system. They just don't want to sue the hospital that generally takes care of them.
Which is why understanding this distinction is so paramount. Look, an 1151 claim is absolutely not a medical malpractice lawsuit. You're not taking the Department of Veterans Affairs to court. It is simply an administrative disability claim. You process this through the normal VA benefits system, fill out standard VA forms, and interact with normal VA raters.
So you just bypass the courtroom entirely?
Entirely. The only difference is the origin point of your injury. Instead of linking your bad back to, say, jumping out of a C-130, you're linking your new nerve damage to a botched procedure at the VA Medical Center.
That really reframes the whole thing. It lowers the temperature from this hostile litigation to just a standard administrative filing.
Exactly.
But the VA isn't just going to hand out ratings because someone had a miserable Tuesday at the clinic. Looking at the legal framework, there seem to be two distinct paths a veteran can take to qualify.
Right. There are two lanes here. The first one is the fault-based path, which makes intuitive sense to most people.
That's where the VA was negligent, or they lacked proper skill, or they made a definitive error, right? Like a nurse giving the wrong medication.
Yeah. Or a surgeon severing a tendon they weren't supposed to touch. That path is rooted in the classic definition of medical negligence, which is falling below the accepted standard of care.
Makes sense.
But the law doesn't stop there. The second path is the reasonably unforeseeable route.
Okay, what does that mean?
Well, under this provision, a veteran might still qualify for compensation even if the VA followed every single protocol perfectly and made absolutely zero mistakes.
Wait, really?
Yeah, provided the resulting complication was not a reasonably foreseeable risk of the treatment.
Okay, I have to push back on that.
Okay.
Because if we're operating under the premise that the VA theoretically did everything perfectly right, where is the fault? How can a veteran win a claim if the government's doctors didn't actually do anything wrong?
I know it's the most counterintuitive part of the statute, but it exists because Section 1151 was designed as a safety net. It's not just a punitive measure against bad doctors.
So it's acknowledging that medical science is just unpredictable.
Exactly. It's largely a game of statistics, and bodies react in bizarre ways. The law recognizes that if a veteran goes to a VA facility to get fixed and comes out permanently broken due to some statistically microscopic anomaly, the veteran shouldn't be left holding the bag.
If you're finding these discussions helpful, please subscribe to Veterans Briefing so you never miss important updates and practical information for veterans and their families.
But, winning this unforeseeable path hinges entirely on medical causation.
Right. So if I go in for an invasive surgery and I get a minor staph infection at the incision site that's a known statistical risk of being cut open in a hospital, that's foreseeable.
Exactly. The VA isn't paying out an 1151 for that if they followed proper sterilization protocols.
Okay, but what's an example of an unforeseeable one?
So say you go in for a routine eye exam, they use standard dilating drops, and you have a 1 in a million catastrophic allergic reaction that leaves you permanently blind in one eye.
Oh, wow.
And let's say the doctor administered the drops perfectly. That crosses into 1151 territory because it was completely unforeseeable to a reasonable medical professional.
But the burden is definitively proving that the treatment itself actually caused the blindness.
Right. The treatment was the catalyst, even without negligence. But to really understand the scope of what qualifies, we should look at some real-world examples.
Let's do that. Grounding this in the sources, the real-world applications of 1151 are just incredibly broad. Take surgical errors, for instance.
Yeah, that's a common one.
A veteran goes into the local VA for a routine knee scope. The expectation is, a week on crutches and some physical therapy. But during the procedure, a surgical instrument damages a major nerve.
And the veteran wakes up with permanent foot drop. Their foot drags, they need a custom brace, and they can't do their physical job anymore. That is a permanent additional disability directly caused by the treatment.
And that drops squarely into the fault-based bucket.
Exactly. Another big one is medication mistakes. You have a veteran already taking a complex cocktail of drugs for service-connected PTSD, and a new VA physician prescribes a heavy antibiotic, but fails to check the drug interactions.
Oh, man. So they get some kind of chemical toxicity.
Right, which causes severe liver damage or maybe profound irreversible tinnitus. That new disability was forged entirely inside the VA pharmacy.
The one that really hits hard for me is delayed or misdiagnosis.
Yeah.
Just because the timeline of suffering is so prolonged.
It's awful. You see cases where a veteran repeatedly visits primary care complaining of severe abdominal pain, and for 2 years they are just dismissed.
Yeah, they're told to lose weight or manage their anxiety, maybe take some ibuprofen. And then finally the pain gets so bad they end up in a civilian ER, and a scan reveals stage 3 cancer.
The tragedy there is the compounding harm. If a competent doctor had ordered the proper scans 2 years prior, it might have been a stage 1 diagnosis, a minor outpatient procedure.
Right. But instead, because of the negligent delay, the veteran loses the kidney, has to do aggressive chemo, and has a worse prognosis.
And that worsening of the condition, the delta between what should have happened and what actually happened, that's the foundation of the 1151 claim.
And it even extends to basic facility safety, right? Like slipping on a wet floor at a VA hospital because there wasn't a warning sign.
Yes. If you fall, shatter your hip, and need a replacement, there's no medical procedure involved, but the injury was caused by negligent conditions at a VA facility. That qualifies just the same.
All those examples are powerful, but understanding the theory is very different from successfully executing a claim. Which brings us to the story of Ray.
Yeah, Ray's case is a masterclass in how this actually plays out.
So Ray was a Desert Storm veteran, a former armored tanker. He came home with, bad knees, aches and pains, and had a 30% service-connected rating, but overall living a great life.
Right, working full-time, playing with his grandkids. But around age 58, he started getting intense radiating chest pain.
And he did exactly what he was supposed to do. He went to his EA clinic, they ran an EKG, looked at it, told him his heart was completely fine, and sent him home with antacids.
They misdiagnosed a major cardiac event as acid reflux.
And 3 months later, the bomb goes off. Ray suffers a massive Widowmaker heart attack right in his living room. EMS saves his life with emergency bypass surgery at a civilian hospital, but he loses 40% of his heart function.
He goes from working 40 hours a week to barely being able to walk down his driveway. The physical devastation was compounded by financial terror.
So naturally, he was furious. He consulted a private medical malpractice attorney.
And the attorney told him the hard truth. Suing the federal government is a brutal, expensive, multi-year slog, and victory is never guaranteed. The lawyer basically said it wasn't worth the cost of litigation.
So Ray was just going to give up. But fortunately, a veteran service officer suggested an 1151 claim instead.
But here's the thing. Ray couldn't just log onto the VA website, type, "They gave me antacids for a heart attack," and expect a check.
Right, bureaucracies don't spontaneously admit fault. Waiting for the VA to volunteer that they ruined your life is like waiting for a toddler to admit they ate the cookie while they have chocolate all over their face.
Exactly. It requires undeniable proof. And for Ray, that proof came in the form of a highly specialized medical nexus letter.
Okay, what exactly did that letter do?
3 things. First, it established the medical standard of care for a 58-year-old with radiating chest pain. Second, it proved the VA doctor breached that standard by failing to order further cardiac tests. And third, it definitively linked that negligent omission to the massive heart attack 3 months later.
And armed with that proper medical nexus letter, Ray won. He was granted a 60% rating strictly for the heart condition under Section 1151.
Which bumped his overall compensation up to over $1,400 a month, tax-free. It stabilized his financial reality, and he never stepped foot inside a courtroom.
His success really highlights this rigid 4-step process, the blueprint for filing, because the VA heavily scrutinizes these claims.
They absolutely do. Step 1 is identifying the specific harm. You can't just say the surgery went bad.
Right, you have to identify the specific new or worsened permanent condition, like permanent right leg sciatica.
Exactly. Step 2 is gathering complete records. And we really need to emphasize the word complete.
A lot of veterans think they have their records because they downloaded their blue button report from the portal. But that's just a summary, right?
Right. Relying on the blue button report is like reading the summary on the back of a book and thinking you know the entire plot. You need the full manuscript.
You have to request your entire unredacted C file. You need the surgical notes, the symptom reports, everything.
Because without that minute-by-minute timeline, an independent doctor can't prove where the plot holes in your care occurred, which leads to step 3, establishing causation.
Right. You need that specialized medical opinion, the nexus letter, because the VA won't connect the dots for you.
And an 1151 nexus letter is way more complex than a standard service connection letter. The expert has to cross-reference the VA doctor's actions with established standards of care.
And finally, step 4 is filing the claim and expecting extra scrutiny, so the evidence has to be airtight.
It does, which is why we need to talk about the top reasons these claims fail. There are 4 main denial traps.
Track number 1 is pretty obvious based on what we just said. No medical nexus.
Yeah. If you just submit the claim and hope the VA rater figures it out, you will lose. An expert must explicitly link the treatment to the harm.
Trap number 2 is trickier. It's when the harm was foreseeable. Like, what if a veteran signed a consent form listing the exact complication they ended up getting?
That is a huge trap. If you sign a form that explicitly discloses the specific harm as a known risk, it closes the unforeseeable path.
So they're just out of luck.
Not entirely, but they have to pivot. It means the veteran must now prove actual negligence or fault. They have to prove the surgeon's hand actually slipped or they used the wrong drill bit.
Which leads right into trap number 3, the inability to prove that negligence. You have to mathematically show how the VA fell below the standard of care.
Exactly. And trap number 4 is having no proof of an additional disability. Let's say a VA pharmacy gives you the wrong med, you have a severe reaction, and spend a week in the ICU. It's terrifying.
But then you fully recover.
Right. If you return to 100% baseline health with 0 lasting physical or mental deficits, you don't qualify. 1151 requires an additional permanent disability. You aren't compensated for temporary suffering.
It sounds incredibly daunting, but there is a solution. There are organizations out there, like Xterra Health, for example, that specialize in reviewing full medical and military records.
Yes, they provide these highly specific medical opinions and nexus letters, which are absolutely mandatory for addressing standard of care and causation.
So let's recap the top 3 takeaways from today's deep dive. First, an 1151 claim is a standard disability claim for VA-caused harm, not a lengthy malpractice lawsuit.
Second, you must prove that the VA treatment caused a permanent additional disability or worsened an existing one.
And third, a specialized medical nexus letter addressing standard of care and causation is non-negotiable for success.
Absolutely non-negotiable.
So if you suspect you were harmed by VA care, your practical action step today is simple. Officially request your complete VA medical records. Not just the basic online download. Get the full file so you have the evidence ready to be reviewed.
It's the most important first step you can take.
We'd love to hear from you all. Have you ever experienced a situation at a VA facility where you felt the care caused you lasting harm? Or do you have questions about the 1151 process? Share your experiences in the comments section below, and remember to subscribe.
It really helps build a community of knowledge.
It does. And before we go, just something to think about. If the VA's own data shows when a veteran suffers a catastrophic decline right after a hospital procedure, why isn't an 1151 eligibility screening automatically triggered? Why does the burden of discovering this law and proving fault fall entirely on the shoulders of the veteran who was just injured?
Thank you for watching Veterans Briefing. Take care, stay informed, and we'll see you in the next episode.